Hello and welcome. This is Elijah Balaji, reaching you live from my desk. It's a new month, and we have decided to take a challenge for the rest of this month. And our challenge is this: for the next 60 days, we can see how we can build. Basically, most of the projects we are looking at, that's a 60 Python project ideas. Some projects are for beginner, some intermediate, advanced. So we'll try as much as possible to take from number 1 down to 20 for beginners, then move to intermediate and advanced. And at the end of the day, if you're able to follow through and work on this project, I can tell you that you are quite good when it comes to Python, because we are going to take a plan with it. We are going to be using Python as our programming language, then Python GUI Tkinter as our GUI library, where we are going to be using several widgets. And of course, you can always use maybe a Flask or a Django or PyQt, whatever you feel like using for your GUI purpose. You can always use it. So let's just get to this and see how far we can go with it. So the first one said hello world GUI. So it's a simple program where we are going to be writing a Python code to just say hello world. So the first thing I want us to do is always let's create our new file for our Python program. Let me call it day1.py. So there's always a naming convention, there's always a file creation convention. If you want to know all these things, you have to follow up with our videos that we are doing in Pidgin, and our book for Python in Pidgin is almost ready. You can actually catch up with all these things. So what is the plan of what we want to do? Always have a plan written down. If you're able to write down your plan, then about 50% of your problem is solved. Let's say we want to create a simple Python GUI, something like this, basically. And inside our GUI, we want to have display input box where you want to collect an information, and we want to have a button. And when we click on this button, we want to have a display somewhere here. Just basically what we want to do. We want this to be an input box, and we want this similarly to be a button, and we want this at the same time to be where we are going to be displaying our message. So let's call it a display. So these are the three things that we are looking at. So this is the plan of what we want to do. So how do we achieve this plan? All this plan for front end, we want it to be achieved using Tkinter. We want it to be achieved using Tkinter, whereas the back end will be in Python. So this is our plan. This is what we want to see. So let's get to it and see how far we can go with it. But first, we are going to start with the simplest means possible. This is our Python file that we have created. The file extension must be in Python, and of course, you must have installed Python, set up your VS Code, set up your system environment. All these things can be found on our YouTube channel, and you can hit me up. We can always look at your system together and set up things. So let's just go. So what is the plan? We need an interface to enter text. We need a button to trigger display, and we need a label to show text at the end of the day. So basically this is what we want to do, but for now let's just call this a simple hello world Tkinter program. So the first thing you do when you're writing programs that have to do with Tkinter, we need to first of all import Tkinter. Tkinter is a Python module or Python library. And when you see the as stands for the alias, so you import Tkinter as TK, just want it as short form. And of course, you can give it a different alias, but I don't think you have to do anything extra to install Tkinter on Python. It is being shipped default with Python. So let's get to it. When we import Tkinter, we need to create an instance of that Tkinter class and maybe give it a name. So let's say we are calling our own let's call it root. We are calling the constructor of Tkinter, and we are from the TK we are attaching it to the variable root. And at the end of the day, this is how we end our program here. Root.main loop. So yes, this is the import statement. This is where we are instantiating the constructor class, the object root, and this is where we are ending it. So inside of this place, we want to have a simple we want to create a simple widget that will just display hello world for us. So we can go and call it, okay, you can see my system is predicting, we can call it my label is TK. We are calling the label from TK, and we are setting it on root, and we are setting the text to be hello world. So we either pack it on the screen using the grid or the pack, but I'll be using the pack for this purpose since I really don't mind what I'm seeing. So I go to my label dot pack so I can see it on the screen. So just by having this and running this simple program, you have automatically written a GUI to just display hello world. You can see what we have here. You can see it's displaying hello world in a GUI format. But let's make this much better so that we can have it interactive and we can close for the first day that we have. So what are the things I want to add to this according to our plan that we have here? An input, a button, and a display. So let's just follow the plan. The first thing we want to have, first things first, we have our input, and our input, let me just say create an input widget. So our input widget, let me call it my entry. My system is giving me some suggestions, so let me just call it my entry, and I want it to be on the root, and I will be packing it on the screen. Whatever widget you create, you are packing it on the screen. The next thing we want to create a button widget. Let's call it my button, and we want it to be called, the text on the button should be display, and the command the button will be calling should be equal to, let's just say, display. We are going to be writing the display command as a function at the end of the day. Each command is a function. So my button dot back is what we have. Going to write the display function now. What we are going to do is I will have an entry, and when we click a button, we want to display it somewhere. But for this reason, this text, we don't have this text there since the text is coming from our entry at the end of the day. So we'll just leave it as an empty string, and let's go ahead quickly and write the display function. We'll write it either before the Tkinter root, or I prefer writing all my functions here. I can call this display function. I'm adding comments so that it's a bit clear for every one of us. Then I'll write a display, and for now let me just say pass so that I don't have an error in any part of my code. So I'll say pass. So what do we want this function to do? This function, one, you are going to be getting a text from the input field, which is my entry. Two, you are going to be displaying the text on the output on label. So let's just proceed and see how we go with it. So I'll just have a new variable that is called entry, and I'll say the entry is equal to my entry widget. I'm having my entry variable that I'm going to be calling the get, so that this get will just get whatever it is. And let me add a little bit Python string method here, so that it's going to take out any extra spaces, the strip. So I want to have my label, and the text in my label will be entry, and at the end of the day this should go. So I think with this we should have what we want to see. Let's just take a look at it to start with. So I have my input field, maybe let's say hello, And when I click on display, you can see I have hello here, but I still have a problem with how the window looks. How do we fix that? Let's add a title and maybe include a geometry so our window can be wider than what it looks. So let me have a root title. Let me call it hello world program. Then I have a root geometry. Let me have a 400 by 400 screen, and if we run it, you see what we have now. We have a screen, a 400 by 400. But let me look at our plan. We needed this button to be a little bit away. There is padding all over here, so let's add padding to our design just to be sure we are following what we want to see. So let me have this on my entry. Let me add a padding on the y-axis. Let me call it maybe 5 on the y-axis. For this, the button, let me add a padding on the y-axis as well. Let me call it maybe let me assign it to a value of 5. And the text field, yeah, let's just keep 5 for everybody. Padding on the y-axis. Let me give you the value of 5. Now let's run it and see what it looks like. Now the 5 is a little bit. Let's add more. For this, let me move from 5 and maybe give this guy a 20. So these are just aesthetics or cosmetics or whatever you want to call it. Let me give this guy a 10 and let me give this guy a 10 so that it's well spread around down the vertical line. So this is how we'll have this, and this. So let's make it more interesting. Let's add 2 more labels to make our GUI more descriptive before we end this video. So I just go here before your input field. Let's create a label. Let's call it description. Let's call it a label, and the label should say maybe enter, yeah, just enter a message. Enter a message. And let's pack it on the screen. So if you run this, I don't want it to have a padding. I want it to be part of yeah, let's make it have a padding. Let me reduce this to 5 so that it catches up with the guy there. Okay, so enter a message. We enter a message here. Let me say hello world. I'll hit on display. You can see we have hello world. Let me say good morning. And we hit on display. It changes to good morning. So just one last thing for housekeeping purpose. After I display, I want to do my entry. I want to delete whatever is in the entry box so that I can enter in something new. So this says I am here first. So when I click on display, delete, and it says I am here first. So we can style all of these things, style all the text, style what the label are looking like, put the color, just do a whole lot of things with it if we wish to do. So you can have things like fonts. If I have this font to be, let's say 30 for example, and I run this and I go say hello world, yeah, 30. So we have other attributes that are assigned to this particular widget called label. I think we have a foreground, and the foreground controls what the color looks like. The foreground controls what the color looks like, and the color will be a string as well, not looking like a variable. So if I say color added and I click on display, you can see the color is now color green. So that is about that for day 1 on this. Let's see if we followed our plan closely. We're able to have the input field, the button, and the display at the end of the day, all inside our widget root. So see you tomorrow for day 2. Tomorrow we are going to be looking at how we can create a number guessing game in Python together.